business tips to successfully start and run your business so your business doesn't run you. And more importantly, we provide personal development tools to create a better version of yourself to provide the solid foundation for your life and business to stand upon. This is the Biz Reveal, and I'm your host, Craig Sawyer. This week's episode is sponsored by Sawyer Health Solutions. Protecting what's important to you is what's important to us. Get your free health insurance quote at SawyerHealthSolutions.com. As a child actor, Brimstone made appearances on iconic pop culture shows such as Sesame Street and Romper Room. Prior to his career in professional wrestling, Brimstone had a career in music performing as the drummer in bands such as Image, Who's Laughing Now, and Bugsy. Brimstone's wrestling career began in 1996 and grew rapidly, eventually becoming the wrestling worldwide heavyweight champion in 2000. He has had a long history appearing in various films, television programming, short films, documentaries, video game voice acting, and cameos in music videos. As the co-founder, president, and CEO of Hound Comics Inc., Brimstone and his team of creators launched his comic book series, Brimstone and the Border Hounds, in 2010. The most recent of his endeavors has been becoming the host of the Grindhouse Radio that is syndicated on over 25 networks. After the show, learn more at www.therealbrimstone.com. This is the Biz Reveal with this week's special guest, Brimstone. For anybody who doesn't know you and they're looking at you, you don't really look like the Sesame Street type. And I know we're going to be talking here in a few minutes too about the children's books, but tell me how you started. Like, how did that even come about with the Sesame Street thing when you were 5?
So, essentially, my mother was very big on, I was a cute kid, not so cute anymore, but my mother was like, I could do things with you. We can take you in and, get you on TV and blah, 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 blah. And, I was a kid. I was like, okay, whatever. And I wasn't shy. So, my mother took me into Manhattan, set me up with an agent. And, I remember doing reads for like Rice Krispies and A1 and, steak sauce and a couple of other things here and there. But, I was 5 years old. I don't remember everything. Sure. I just remember a big room and sitting and, doing reads and so forth. I didn't even know they were called reads then. I know what they are now, but, right. So, and then one of the gigs I booked was Sesame Street. So I wound up being one of the child actors on Sesame Street. And funny enough, we've been cleaning out my mother's house. My mother passed about 3 years ago, and we've been, thank you. And, we've been holding on to the house because first we were going to potentially move there. Then we were deciding maybe we'll just sell it. Maybe we'll do something. So we just decided it's time to sell. But she was a little bit of a hoarder. So, we were trying to kind of get through the house and clean things out and so forth. And actually we found my, and I almost brought it into my studio today. My son found my contract with Children's Television Network.
No kidding.
So Yeah. So he found the contract. It was for like a couple month, run and so forth. And, apparently I wasn't able to work anywhere else. And, but I know I did Romper Room either before that or after that. I don't recall Romper Room as vividly as I do Sesame Street. But Sesame, was good to me. And, I was one of the kid actors and, I got to work with Carol, Spinney, who, later on in life I became, friends with, as an adult. And, we did a lot of stuff on the con circuit together and that was always a beautiful thing. And, and Sesame Street, people are like, what? You were on Sesame Street? It's like, yeah, it was not much to it. I just had to be a kid. You know what I mean? Like it was not like
cute,
I had
to just look cute.
Yeah. And, I didn't have to memorize lines or anything. But that was my first real foray in entertainment. And, my mother and my father, had gotten divorced and my father had told my mother, giving her a hard time, like, I'm supposed to have, him on this day or this week, on this weekend or whatever it is. And, so my mother couldn't bring me to auditions all the time because, my father was, wanted me. And and I don't know what part of it was just them playing tug of war, or if he really wanted to see me or whatever it is. And I'm sure now he'll be like, I did want to see you, but so if you're listening, Dad, I know I love you. It's okay, don't worry about it. But at the end of the day, it was one of those things where it was kind of cut too soon. We were joking around last night that I could have been, what do you call it? I could have done the Macaulay Culkin gig on Home Alone.
Oh,
I was,
wouldn't that have been something, right?
yeah,
So did you enjoy it? Like, were you really into it at the time? Or first of all, do you remember? Or was it something that you were forced to do and you're okay with it, but you would have preferred to have been on the playground on the merry-go-round with your buddies?
No, I enjoyed it. I've always been the kind of kid and the kind of guy that likes the attention. There are a lot of celebs out there that it's funny that they just don't want any attention whatsoever. You know what I mean? And I find that quite odd. But at the end of the day, I've always been the kind of guy that likes to be the center of attention in a positive way. So for me, it was never an issue. I was always super psyched and super happy to be on set. What do you call it? I got to see things that other people didn't get to see.
Right.
And that's one thing throughout my entire career that's the one thing that has not, been taken away in terms of, emotions and being jazzed about things. I'm always still jazzed about, seeing things that other people don't necessarily get to see and being able to experience things that, look, I worked hard. I got to this point in my career that I'm getting to I have the opportunity to do these things that other people don't get to do. And, and I also get to share them with other people. You know what I mean? Like I'm able to bring people along with me to say, hey, look at this. And, people don't get to do this. This is special. And I worked super hard to get here to do this. And, and I'm the kind of guy that also will open up those doors and say, hey, everybody, come with me. Let's come in.
Important.
I want to, share this with you. So, I've brought a lot of people to the dance over the years. And, that being said, I've never had an issue doing anything in entertainment. The only thing I won't do is adult film, and that's because and my wife would kill me. And
You got to draw the line somewhere, right? There's got to be a
yeah.
line somewhere. Well, you mentioned that some celebrities don't like the attention, and I kind of get that. I'm an entertainer. To be honest, I feel like I could talk to a group of 20,000 people on stage much easier than this one-on-one that we're doing right now. I am much less nervous when I'm on stage because I know that people are coming to see me. They want
Right.
to see me. They want to hear me. I've got something to say that they want to hear. You feel more welcome. I love it, man. I thrive in that. But some celebrities, like you said, sometimes they just have a talent, and it just so happens that talent is extremely popular, right? Like,
Yep.
Kurt Cobain. He didn't
Mhm.
want all of that. He just really enjoyed singing and playing his guitar, and they blew up. And that constant eyeball kind of it smothers you for some people.
Again, look, I get it, but there are other ways to go about things rather than taking your life
Oh,
and
definitely.
you know what I'm saying, and
Yeah.
leaving a wife and a child behind and fans and so forth. I'm sorry, like look, and I don't want to come at anybody with, because people have suicidal tendencies and so forth. And the fact of the matter is that I lose a lot of respect, even though I do understand that people have things going on in their heads, and but then get help. Go and get help. I urge people, all the time, if you have those tendencies, if you have those thoughts, speak to someone. Hell, contact me on social media. Talk to me. I'm happy to help you and work through them with you. I've had people that have taken their own lives that have been very, friends of mine. And, sometimes you don't know what's going on in their heads. You can't, you can't assume, you know what I'm saying? Because people can seem all happy go lucky on the outside. And then all of a sudden, you find out, nope, they weren't. And it's an awful, awful thing. And the fact of the matter is, call that you're not alone. You know what I mean? People, you're not alone. Call the suicide hotline. Speak to a friend. Speak to a family member. If you can't speak to them, speak to a stranger. Speak to someone and get yourself some help. In my opinion, you know what I mean? When somebody takes their own life, they're not hurting themselves, even though they are. they're hurting everybody that they're
Everybody
leaving
around you.
behind.
Yeah, because they
You
have
know
to
what I
deal
mean?
with the aftermath of that.
And it's awful, and it's and you know, and for me, I you know, as awful as I do feel about it, I do lose a little bit of respect for somebody who does something like that.
Yeah.
And I hope I don't take flack for saying something like that. It's just my personal thought, and again, I support I support people getting help.
And I think that it's good
Um,
that now we are starting to get to that stage in society where we are starting to pay more attention to the mental health issues. And I
yeah,
think a lot of our problems will be solved that way. And I know that's a tangent that we probably weren't planning on going down, but it is important to at least mention it since since we brought it
absolutely,
up that, we are paying more attention to that. And I think it's going to solve a lot of problems if we stay consistent with that. But going with
yes,
that, like everyday life, I don't care who you are, everyday life is hell, right? I mean, there's stressors,
yeah,
there's emotional things. You have people close to you that pass away. You get, turned down for the job that you've been aspiring for.
oh yeah,
When you're in the life that you've had for the last, what'd you say, 41 years,
41 years.
I'm sure that there are other stressors that most of us aren't even aware of. What
Hmm.
are some of the things that you may have experienced that in that public life that most of us would not have experienced that have been stressors for you?
Oh man, one, you know, you're talking about, so I teeter the line of, celebrity and entertainer as well as, business and entrepreneur. So I've had things on both sides. One of the biggest issues that I've had is, in the past is trusting too hard. Like I trusted people that I probably shouldn't trusted. And they caused me, major roadblocks in my career, which I had to overcome. But the thing is that, failure is part of success. If you don't have failure, you can't succeed. It's part of the recipe. So for me, having made those mistakes, I've learned from them tremendously. And I've been able to kind of move forward. Some of them I just don't prefer to talk about. But just to let people know, it doesn't matter who you are, it's okay to fail. It's okay to make a mistake, because you're going to learn some of the most amazing lessons from those mistakes, that will help you excel forward, as long as you learn. You know what I
Right.
mean? Other things, that have happened to me that wouldn't necessarily happen to the normal person. I've had stalkers. I had one stalker that I wound up having to close down one of my corporate offices for Hound Comics and Counts Entertainment Group.
Oh, wow,
I
that's a big one.
and yeah, and it wasn't even a female; it was a male. And it was, it's
Damn,
just
right?
this, yeah, yeah, just the disgusting, people that just disrespect your personal space.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm in the public eye. That doesn't mean that you own me. You know what I mean? And the fact is, I love my fans, Greg. I got to tell you, like I don't care who they are. If they come up to me wherever we are, I mean, obviously in pandemic, it's a little different. And I ask people, because I've had a lot of people come up to me and they want to take pictures or shake my hand during the pandemic, and I'm like, listen, please respect my distance on this. And
Sure.
I see me at an event, I promise you, I'll do extra for you when the world opens up. But at the end of the day, like I just don't feel comfortable with that right now. But other people, when you're out, I'm out eating, and I'm with my wife and my kids, and we're sitting and eating dinner, and instead of waiting till you're done eating dinner, they come up to the table. It's like, can I have your autograph? And like, oh my God, that's like, first of all, I'm not even an A-lister. God, who wants to deal with like a Brad Pitt type of life?
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's like I appreciate them. I really do. I really appreciate them. But there's a time and a place,
Yeah.
like so.
You're a
There's one
person too.
opportunity.
And they need to realize that you're just a person that has a
Just a
public job.
person.
Yeah.
That's it. And there was one occasion, my wife and I. It was before we were married. And we went to, and it was like one of those restaurants, like an Applebee's type of thing, no free ads. Where where it was like just like one of those chain restaurants, and we went in, and there was a line, and they got us in real fast, which sometimes I feel bad about, but I had just come from an event and I was starving,
Yeah.
and
It's one of
what do
those
you
times
call
that
it?
came in handy.
Yeah, so so they had a seat ready for us. We went over there, and when I tell you that we had the best service that I've ever had in one of those restaurants, And at the very end of the meal, when we were completely done, they brought over the check, and the check was zeroed out, and they comped the check. And what do you call it? And which wasn't necessary. And the girl asked, I hate to ask you, but would you mind taking a picture? And what I've said, oh, whatever you want, and we had the whole crew came over. We took pictures, we signed autographs. I took for the fans that were in the restaurant, and it was a feel good moment, but they waited. They were respectful about it. You know what I mean? And, true story. This was, oh my God, years ago. My wife and I have been together almost 20 years. This has got to be over almost 15 years ago, and I'll never forget that. You know what I mean? That was one of the most interesting, and, I've been taken care of and so forth in different places, but, that was one time where the entire staff they were just so sweet and wonderful. And not one peep while I was dining, not at all. It was when we were finally finished, we were about to get up, and just the sweetest group of people. And, if they're listening now, I still love you guys. I still think about you. Thank you so much. But you get all different kinds. I mean, I'll be signing at a convention, and, it's very well noted that I'm married. I speak very, volumes about my wife, on social media and in interviews sometimes. And the fact of the matter is I'm not going anywhere. I'm not, I'm not cheating on her. So what do you call it? But that doesn't stop people from trying.
Well, how
you know
has
what I mean?
your circle of influence, like the people that you're around, how has that changed throughout the years? Because with fame becomes people, obviously is always going to be people who want to be part of that. They want to be close to people who have notoriety. So how has that changed, the people that you surround yourself with throughout the years?
Much smaller circle.
Yeah.
Much smaller circle. I've also realized who's a real friend and who's not. I like I said, with people that I've always helped bring people in, and I said, if you're my friend, I'm going to bring you up with me. I've always been good with that. And, I had some issues with some of my closest friends. Unfortunately, sometimes what they say is you shouldn't get into business with friends. You shouldn't get into business with family.
Right.
It's real, folks.
Yeah.
But again, so my personal, outside of entertainment circle has gotten a lot smaller, to where, the people that I really spend a lot of time with are either other entertainers, or because they also understand that if I'm not calling, often, they know that it's not because I don't love you. It's because I'm just way too busy.
Sure.
And if you call me, I can drop everything and talk for a minute, but I'm constantly grinding. You know what I mean? So I don't think, all right, well, I've got to stop and call XYZ because I haven't spoken to them in a couple of weeks, even though it might be in my head. I can't physically stop and do it. You're in entertainment. You get that. Some people who work a 9 to 5, and there's nothing wrong with 9 to 5s. I think, if that's for you, that's for you. For me, I can't do that. So if I'm not working, I'm not making money. So, the fact is that people who work a 9 to 5, they don't understand because they're not walking in our shoes.
Exactly.
So, and I can appreciate that. So, the people, like I said, that are around me now are, some other entertainers, as we were talking about prior, to coming on live. And then others who are like, they don't care what I do. You know what I mean? They just, they'll ask, oh, how's work? And I'm like, oh, I'm doing this. I don't care. It's okay. Let's talk about something else. So, you know what I mean? It's, there's no bearing on, they don't care. The celebrity thing doesn't faze them. But what do you call it for, externally in entertainment? I mean, my circle has grown tremendously, you're talking about, some of the coolest people in entertainment. And, I happen to be able to call them my close friends. And, I don't get jazzed about that. You know what I mean? Because we're all just people.
Well, and them as people. You don't just know them as the guy or the gal that's on TV or on the movie screen. You know them as actual genuine people that do the same darn things that everybody else does, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And, and it's funny because my daughter will be watching TV and she's like, oh, this one's on. Oh, your friend, this one is on. Or, oh, that one's on. Or, she's watching Nickelodeon, then Good Burger comes on. She's like, oh, your friend Kel is on. So it's all right, so she gets it and she knows and she's funny with it. Sometimes she's 10.
Now you're in a million different industries, right? If somebody goes to your website, man, you do everything. So you're the type of personality that just can't sit still, right? You're obviously looking for that next thing to do, and
Yeah.
which is the true definition of an entrepreneur, right? You know, like I'm going to do this, I'm
Yes.
going to attack it. Got it. Okay, well, did that one. Let's move on to the next thing. And it's always like a challenge. Where did that personality come from? Like, when did you first realize that you had that in you?
Um, when I was younger, you know what I mean? I always wanted to
Was it
do.
being like in the Sesame Street type thing, just surrounding yourself with that type of environment?
No, no, no. It came later. I always wanted to do everything. You know what I mean? When I was in school, it's like, all right, well, I want to do everything. I want to, play the drums. I want to, play basketball. I want to play softball. I want to do, you kind of get you get bit. You know what I mean? You get
Yeah,
bit with that,
it's
love
addictive.
for just doing things, and it gets addictive.
Yeah.
And I like success. I like to be able to say, I accomplished this, you know what I mean? Or I accomplished that, not for other people. I mean, yeah, it's impressive when other people see, but I do it for me. I don't do it for anybody else. And in entertainment in general, or even and entrepreneurship. And by the way, for everybody listening, entertainers are entrepreneurs. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing, and people need to understand that. It's still a business, and you're going out and you're conducting business when you're out, whether it's on screen, playing an instrument, whatever you're doing, it's a business. So taking a step back, you know, um, I guess I got lost there for a minute. I forgot what the question was. I am so
Well,
sorry.
no,
What
no.
was the
I mean,
question?
you kind of went into like just how you got into doing so many different things.
Right, 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 right. So, like for me, I enjoy doing things that I haven't done, and what do you call it, and accomplishing something there. So, I started out, like, before I got into drums, I was drawing, and I was very big on on art and comic books, and what do you call it, which again came full circle when I became good friends with Stan Lee, and I'm the
Oh
celebrity
wow,
spokesperson for his foundation. So
amazing.
and I miss him very dearly. So that was a thing when I was a kid. I wanted to be a famous artist, and that's what I wanted to do. And then I found the love of drums. So I didn't stop drawing, but I went and started playing drums. So I would draw like all the art for when I got into like bands. I'd be drawing the artwork, and like, here's the flyers, and sending them out, thinking I was so cool and badass. And yeah, man. And
You're killing me
my
though, man,
first.
because we come from like the same type of thing. I
Yeah,
used to draw cartoons,
yeah,
and I did that a lot. I always thought that I was going to be a cartoonist when I grew up, but then I started realizing, I think it was about sixth grade or so, that I could only draw one angle. I couldn't do like the full like 360 different views of the
right.
characters, and I was like, and I kind of just gave it up at that point. 'Cause I'm like, I'm never going to get better at this, and apparently I didn't love it enough to practice. That was about
Yeah,
the same time I picked up drums. I picked up playing drums between fifth and sixth grade. I played
there you go.
violin for third, fourth, and fifth. How
Me
about that
too.
for a switch?
Me too.
Shut up.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
And so my parents had to love that, going from violin to drums. That was a hell of a
yeah.
difference. And it was actually because my brother got a set for his 15th birthday. My parents got him a drum set, and I just kind of put on some headphones and put on some John Cougar Mellencamp and just started mimicking it. And I learned how to play by ear. And I'm telling you, man, but people who don't play drums don't know this, that it is the absolute best instrument in the world.
Oh
Because
yeah.
if you're in a bad mood, you can beat the shit out of something, and it's actually productive. It is like the most
Yeah.
amazing, fun thing that you can do. But
Well,
going
drumming to wrestling. You know what I'm saying? Drumming to wrestling. Think about that.
Yeah.
You know what I
Well, now
mean?
you can just beat up people instead instead of the skins, right? So
What's really
go
what's
ahead.
really cool is, I'm sorry to enter. So what's really cool is, and I was just having this conversation the other day with my buddy Jimmy DeAnder from the Bullet Boys. So what do you call it? I was going through all the stuff at my mother's house, and what do you call it? I actually found like a whole bunch of old pictures from like from the old metal magazines that I used to have on the wall in my drum studio. And it's funny because I'm going through them, like, I'm friends with this one now. I know this one now.
That is
I'm friends
so
with this
cool.
one
Yeah.
now. So I messaged Jimmy. I'm like, Jimmy, you want any of your old stuff? Because I apparently have a whole bunch of things. You know what I mean?
And
People that I
that's actually
always
a
looked up
question I
to.
had for you is role models, because that's important. Like I didn't have a lot of them. Because
Yeah.
so when people ask me that question, which is fairly rare, but for somebody like you, and when you do a lot of interviews, I'm sure you get that question asked quite a bit. But as far as your role
No,
model, really, well, let's ask that.
surprisingly.
You know, role models change compared to where you are in your stage in life, right? They
Yeah.
should, because you're looking at different things to influence you. But what role models have you had? And I'm talking not just the entertainment business, but maybe even family type issues, or, business, as you got farther into business. And I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into that in a second as well. But what kind of role models did you have growing up and later in life, in your adult life?
So, when I was younger, obviously, I was very, very into Stan. What do you call, when I was a kid? Obviously, Stan's bullpen was big, and Spider-Man, and you know what I mean, all the X-Men, and you know what I mean, just all the comic books, and so Stan had been somebody that I looked up to in terms of the art world.
When you are self-employed, whether as an independent contractor or a business owner, when it comes to health insurance, you're on your own. Health insurance for the self-employed individual is imperative. When you get sick or injured, you aren't working and you don't get sick days. You may end up facing staggering medical expenses and loss of income. Health risks and uncertainties are a part of life. You can't always plan when you get sick, but you can be prepared for the financial aspect. The best way to be prepared against uncertain health risks is with the right health insurance plan. Call Sawyer Health Solutions today for your free consultation and quote. Allow us to put a plan together that makes sense for your situation. Call 239-677-9877 or go to our website at sawyerhealthsolutions.com. Protecting what's important to you is what's important to us.
What do you call it, in music? The reason why I wanted to play in a band and actually be a rock star was Tommy Lee. From Motley Crue.
Yeah, no
And
kidding.
fun story. I have a fun story about when Tommy and I met. And what do you call it? If you want to hear it, I can tell you. If not, that's okay
Man,
too.
I would love any story that involves Tommy Lee, because it's got to be a good one.
So what do you call it? So I'll tell that, and then I guess I'll go back to the other
Okay.
things. And so Tommy Lee was my unicorn, right? And I always, first of all, everybody tells you don't meet your heroes. That is not necessarily always true. What do you call it? Rod Morgenstein from Winger is one of my role models, as well. Rod is one of my good friends, and I don't get to see him or speak to him very often, but he is one of the most down to earth, sweetest people, and one of the most talented drummers in the world. If you're not familiar with him, look him up. Rod Morgenstein, ridiculous. He teaches at Berkeley. I mean, he's just unbelievable. That being said, what do you call it? Other people that had inspired me, to drum. Fred Corey, one of the sweetest guys,
Yeah.
from Cinderella, one of the sweetest guys out there. Ricky Rocket from Poison, one of the greatest guys out there. You know what I mean? Jimmy DeAnda, Bullet Boy, same thing. But, Tommy Lee was always evasive. Not to me in general. Every time that it was set up that I was supposed to meet the guy, something happened. So over the years, it became like a running joke because there was one event, because like you said, I kind of am in all different genres, and I can kind of, it's like a chameleon. I'm kind of in, each single, every one. I can kind of go in with the rock stars. I can go in with the rap guys. I can go in with the, with the musician. I'm not the musicians, the actors, or the voice actors, or you get it. So fact is, I was asked to do a club event, and it was an event that Tommy was supposed to be doing a DJ thing at. So so that was one of the times that we were supposed to get together to meet. And the promoter wound up calling last minute. We have to pull the event. Something happened with the club, yada yada yada. So that was one time I was like, okay, I lost that. Then I was supposed to be brought backstage for another event. That didn't happen. I wound up going backstage, and I was with a couple of Vince's people, Vince Neil's people. And so I was in Vince's locker, not locker room, but his dressing room area. And I wound up, when I was leaving, my wife and I were walking past Tommy's room. Tommy's head, he pops his head out, and I'm like, "Hey, Tommy, how you doing?" Before I had the opportunity to even say anything, he's like, "Oh, hey!" And then the agent pulled him back into the locker. Into the dressing area. So, and that was at Madison Square Garden, I believe. So that was that. And it's like every single time there was an opportunity for us to sit and just talk for a hot minute, it just wasn't happening.
Yeah.
So I said, you know what? This is never going to happen. We joked about it. There was one time he was doing the signing. So, and I was booked somewhere else. So I couldn't even go to that. And I never do those things because, you know what I mean? I'm not a fanboy and I have no desire to do it. But for him, I was going to go do it just to meet the guy. You know what I mean? And say, hey, this is who I am, blah, 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 and whatever. So long story longer. What do you call it? I was signing at this tattoo convention that I sign at all the time, whatever they're in the, in the, what do you call it, area. And, what do you call it? This was taking place at one of the big casinos that's in Queens here in New York. And, I went down and, one of the head security guards, as always, knows me well, Dallas, and comes to me. He's like, Bram, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. He's like, oh, so good to see you. Yada, yada, yada. It's like, anything you need, as always. And I'm like, oh, you're the best. Thank you so much. Big dude. You know what I mean? And, he wanted to be a wrestler. So, he's like always extra good to, to me. So, he says to me, because, yeah, it's going to be a busy weekend. I've got this one over here. And then Tommy Lee from Motley Crue is going to be here. I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, yeah, all right, whatever. He's like, what do you mean? So I told him the story, of how I have not been able to kind of touch base with this guy.
Yeah.
So he goes, oh no, I got you. I'll bring you up to meet him later. I'm like, okay, whatever. Whole day goes by. Every time he comes by, he's like, don't leave. Make sure you stay here. And I'm going to bring you up to meet Tommy. I'm like, all right, whatever. I'll believe it, when I see it, So I've gotten so passive over the years that it's just like with that, I'm just like, whatever. So, it was getting later and I was like, all right, it's starting to slow down a little bit. I'm going to get the hell out of Dodge. So I packed up my stuff and I walked around and I went to see, my buddy Guy he's also with the Grindhouse Radio. He, what do you call it? Used to play the bass with, Scatterbrain and Ludacris. So, he's been around the block as well. So we're sitting and we're BSing and talking because he was doing his, he has a music store, All Music Inc., here on the island. So he had his, what do you call it, his stuff there as well. And, there comes Dallas, like, he looking like where the hell, looks at me and goes, where the hell are you? I told you I was bringing you to meet Tommy. He's like, I was coming to get you right now. I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. So I look at Guy. I was like, hey, you want to go meet Tommy Lee? He's like, sure, why not? I'm like, this is not going to happen. Sure. I got to tell you, as crazy as it was, him and about 4 other security guards escorted us all throughout the casino, brought us upstairs, and brought us to the dressing room. So I'm like, oh, well, maybe this is going to happen. So he knocks on the door. They see it's Dallas. He's like, oh, come in. So, so he went in and he's just like, wait out here for right now. So he's in there talking, whatever. We're standing out there, now there's the door, there's us, then there's security and a barrier keeping everybody away from us and away from his door. So we're like, it's like 1,000 freaking people out here waiting to see this dude. And I'm just like, all right, like this isn't going to happen. A half hour goes by. We're still standing out there. 45 minutes goes by. We're still, I'm like, I don't wait for anybody, bro.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't wait for anybody. Like, this is not going to happen. I'm just going to leave. Swear to God, as we were turning and about to leave, because I was signing the whole day. I was tired. I was doing my thing, So, I turned around and as we're turning around, the door opens up and Dallas like grabs us and he like pulls us in. So everybody's like freaking out, like, oh my God, So we're in there and, what do you call it? Tommy is in like the next room over. So, we meet, a couple of the people that he works with and so forth. And, they asked me for some pictures. So I took some pictures with them. And, what do you call it? Then we went in to meet Tommy and I was just like, this is interesting. I've got to screw with him. I was like, I got to screw with him. So we go in and he looks at me. He's like, hey, what's going on? I'm like, you. What? I'm like, you. I said, every single goddamn time I go to, I'm supposed to do something with you to meet you, dumbass. Blah, 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 blah. And he's like, whoa. I'm like, I'm just kidding, bro. I said, I'm just kidding, bro. It's an honor and a privilege to meet you. And I told him, I said, the only reason why I wanted to come meet you, in person was to share with you that, it's because of you that I took, entertainment to the next level. And, what do you call it? And now this is what I do. And he's heard of me and he knew who I was, not well, but, he heard the name. And we took pictures, we BS'd and we kibutzed for a little bit. And, and that was that, man, and after that, he liked a couple of things that I posted of, the pictures, that was that. I mean, and I have not had any contact with him since, but I didn't need to, you know what I mean? I was, that was my prerogative was to be able to shake his hand and say, thank you. You know what I mean? Now fast forward into pro wrestling. At the very beginning, before I got into wrestling, I was in music, and I needed to take a break from music because I was sick of being in a 5-way marriage. And at the end of the day, I needed to take that break. Now, that being said, I was teetering on that. And at the time I was working for the Village Voice's sister publication, the Long Island Voice. It was like the pet project of Stern, who owns, Village Voice at the time.
Right.
So they had known that I was interested in a lot of different things. They knew I was into photography because, I was doing that on the side. So I'm a published, I did published work in photography, and, and they knew I liked pro wrestling. So they were like, hey, one of our writers is going to cover this event. I'm sorry, I'm talking so much, Craig.
No, that's what the show's for, man.
What do you call it? He's like, there's this event that Bill Jensen is covering. He was the sports writer. It's like it's pro wrestling. It's like a small, what is Knights of Columbus or whatever it was down the road. Do you think you could give him a hand and go and take pictures for him? I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? And it was an extra couple of bucks. So now this is, years ago, and I had a good name in music and entertainment already, but I wasn't where I am now, obviously. So I was like, I had no shame, and I went there. And after, being introduced to a bunch of people with Bill, and taking the pictures, they knew that I was, what I was there for. And it's funny because some of these people are people that I became good friends with later on in life. You know what I mean? Once I was already in the industry. But one of the first people, that I had spoken to, and he says to me, he goes, it's the Iron Sheik. And Sheiky says to me, looks at me, and goes, you look like you could be wrestler. I want to train you. I train you be wrestler. I humble you. And that's freaking Sheiky. So, and Sheik is just a great guy, and he's amazing. And as the story goes, is, and he's one of the people I always looked up to in the business, when I was watching on TV, with the Hulk Hogan, cartoon, and, you got Sheik and Volkov, and, these guys, these were my friends. Captain Lou was like another father to me. You know what I mean? So like these guys, later on, obviously, but Sheiky, his first time meeting, you look like you could be a wrestler. And then his agent started talking to me, Eric Sims, it's like, oh, you want to train, you want to be trained by him, you can fly out to Atlanta, and then X, Y, and Z, and it'll cost you this, or he can come here, and just fast talking me. And I'm just like, whoa, calm down, bro, calm down. No, hold on. I don't know what I want to do with this. This is the first time I'm even thinking or considering something like that after being told that. But they were what we call working me in the business. And, And it just so happened that Bret Hart, happened to be at the con, and we met earlier, and he overheard the conversation with Sheiky and Eric, and he said to me, he calls me to the side, and goes, look, if you're really looking to get into the business, here's my email address. It was old school AOL back in the day. That tells you how long ago
Right.
it was. And he's like, if you're interested, just drop me an email, and if you find a school, he's like that you're interested, and I'll tell you what to look out for. And he didn't have to do that, but he knew I was there with the publication, and and it was just a real nice guy. And I went, I found the school that I was going to go to, the Long Island Wrestling Federation, the Doghouse, the famous Doghouse. And I wound up, before I went, I emailed him. I took him up on his offer. I said, I found this place. What do you think? And he goes, this is what to look for. I went. I looked for everything. I got back to him. He goes, everything sounds legit, sounds on point. Make sure you boom. And I said, okay. And, long story longer, here I am over 20 years later. You know what I mean? And, so a few years back, wow, maybe it's got to be at least 5-6 years now. I was at I was signing in San Antonio, and what do you call it? A bunch of my friends were there, and I had walked in with my buddy Ray Park and Daniel Logan from Star Wars. Ray Park was Darth Maul, and what do you call it? Daniel Logan is the young Boba Fett. So we walked in and we were going to hang out with some of the other Star Wars people, but other things were going on, and then I saw that my friend like Nash and Hall and a bunch of the old school boys were over at the bar, and what do you call it? And Brett was there, and so I went over. I saw Hall, I saw Nash, I spoke to everybody, and what do you call it? I went over to Brett, and before the night was through, I said to him, I go, listen, I know you probably don't remember this. You don't know me, or you don't remember me. I mean, I know Nash, I know Hall. I know I hadn't seen Brett since that day. You know what I mean? Our paths had never crossed.
Right.
So, I said to him, I go, you probably don't remember, but it's because of you that I have all of what I have now. And I thank you for that. You know what I mean? And, so I was able to, the coolest thing about my career, or one of the coolest things that, which I never even talk about because, nobody ever asks me about my role models, which is, they're like, well, what inspired you? You know what I mean? But everybody that's inspired me to do what I've done, I've had the opportunity to either work with or meet and be able to kind of close that chapter.
That's amazing. Like to go
Yeah.
full circle,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I see that all the time, like in the NFL. Well, I mean, how can you not, when you got somebody like Tom Brady that's been in for, I don't know, an eternity,
Oh, yeah.
right? And you've got kids that were looking at Tom Brady at the beginning of his career.
Yeah.
These kids were like 5, 6, 7 years old, and they were his role model, and now they're playing alongside of him or against him, So to
Crazy.
take that full circle is got to be an amazing feeling. You said a second ago that they were working you, right? Sometimes they're kind of working you. So it kind of led me to how that translated for you going into, I know entertainment is business, but when you started having your own businesses, whether it was entertainment or some of the other ventures you've done, did you ever feel out of the loop? Like you had people that were taking care of things for you and you weren't part of the conversation?
I always do everything. I am. So where my mother, had hoarded stuff, I hoard, work. And for me, when I'm pioneering a project, I am hands on. Matter of fact, my sauces and seasonings, when I had, so I mean, there are different stories, and obviously I'm jumping around a little bit with this, question, but I have my own line of sauces and seasonings that are all award winning. And I was working with a company called K-John's Fiery Foods, and, K-John, himself is like the godfather of hot sauce. Love him to death. We're still very good friends. I just, we don't see each other as often anymore, but, he wound up getting very sick. Thankfully he got better. And he wound up, deciding, you know what, I'm done with the business side of things, and which is crazy because he's more like on it than I am.
Yeah.
What do you call it? So, but he's like, I'm done with it. And he wound up deciding to sell his business. So when he sold his business, what do you call it? Obviously he couldn't, I had to remove my product line from him. You know what I mean? So like we had to, because he was selling it to another company. And, so anything that he was co-packing, he had to stop co-packing. So at that given point in time, I was, shoulder deep in touring with all the comic book conventions. I was promoting my comic book series. I was doing, promoting, animated series. I was doing, my backpacks with eSport, which are on Big Bang Theory and so forth, and dealing with other things. I didn't have the time to go and actually sit down and have conversations with, other co-packers and other people that I could work with, simply because if I'm going to work with somebody and you're going to be carrying my name, within, by creating my product, I have to make sure that it's going to be, up to my standards.
Sure. Yeah.
It's my name, and I am all about authenticity and excellence.
Yeah,
And,
I like that.
if you're going to put my name on something, you know what I mean? It's my product. It's my recipes. I want to make sure that everything is done properly. And unfortunately, I got so wrapped up in everything that was going on. I wound up, I didn't have the time to go and do it. And a couple of years had gone by, and I finally wound up reconnecting with friends of mine from Torchbearer Sauces, who I'd met while touring, and doing tour dates with K-John. Because myself and my buddy Bumblefoot, who used to be with Guns N' Roses, we had our sauces through John, and seasoning. So what do you call it? So we would go and do different, conventions with them, the hot sauce conventions, and sign and bring extra people to the booth and bring people to come get our stuff as well. And so I met, after hours, we would always do the hotel thing, just like in the Comic Cons. You know what I mean? Where we all go break bread and we do this and we do that and whatever. And we go then, if you drink, everybody drinks, or, so, at the end of the day, it's the same field, different manure. You know what I mean? Like, or different field, same manure. Sorry about that. Different field, same manure. So, at the end of the day, these guys, were so good, such great people. The guys, Ben and Vid from Torchbearers. And, I got to know them, and, just their sauces were always top notch. Their artwork, on the labels was always on point. You know what I mean? Very catchy, and people respected them. So eventually, right before the pandemic happened, we had finally gotten together, and we wound up putting together, a Torchstone Thai, and as a new flavor, kind of test the water, see how it's going to be, see how people would react to it, coming back after a while and putting out a new sauce. And we did it, and within the first 3 months, we were in the top 3 or 4 sauces, top selling sauces in their entire, catalog for the year. You know what I mean? Like, we went right up there with that sauce. So we're going to be bringing back some of my old sauces now, and seasonings and so forth, that were the hot sellers, as well as bringing in new sauces and seasonings. But my point here is, going back to the original question, if I was like, all right, not hands on, I wouldn't have cared, and I would have been like, all right, just do it, and it might not have succeeded. You know what I mean? So I had to make sure that it was going to be to the quality that I expected. It's the same thing with eSport backpacks. Like, they didn't expect me to be there, but throughout the entire process, I was at every single meeting. Every meeting, we designed the backpacks. I had I created the entire thing with with the people over there, and it's just, you have to be involved. You know what I mean? You have to be involved.
Do you think that your experience with the entertainment industry all the way along through this entire lifespan, and going into those business ventures with the sauces and the seasonings and the backpacks and, the comic books and everything else, right, all that stuff, did your relationships or experience in having these types of conversations with people, do you think that really is what boosted your confidence as far as creating these businesses? Because it's all about relationships, right? Everything's about relationships.
Everything's relationships.
And some people just don't feel comfortable having those types of conversations. So if you've grown up this way and you've lived your life this way, did your entertainment life actually help you?
To a certain extent, because I know how to work a boardroom.
Okay.
Know what I mean?
Audience, right?
I know my audience. I know, who is paying attention and who's not. And in pro wrestling, you also learn how to read a room if you're good. And the fact is, if they're cheering, that you're doing your job. If they're
Right.
booing, that that you're doing your job. If they're not saying anything, they're not having any reaction, you better step it up. You know what I mean? So I'm pretty good at reading a room. I'm pretty good at working a room. Same thing with music. I host a lot. I judge, foodie events. Like, I like to be in tune with the audience, and whether you know me or not, you're going to know me by the time we leave. And, so yes, going into boardrooms, entertainment absolutely helps, because even though I'm not necessarily putting on a character, because I am Brimstone, you know what I mean? I'm Brim, you know what I mean? It's not the wrestling character then. Brimstone is me, you know what I mean? We're synonymous with each other. And, the fact is that, I'm authentic, you know what I mean? I go in and I am not nervous, You know what I mean? And I'm myself. I'm unapologetically myself, Greg. When I go into these places, I'll either walk I can walk in, head to toe Brooks Brothers, you know what I mean, to the nine, or I'll walk in with ripped jeans and a shirt and what do you call it? Normally I have all my skull rings and everything on and my earrings, my hair down, with my Brimstone sunglasses up and you know what I'm saying? And I'm just like, let's do business, boys. You know what I mean? And and I'm respected either way because they know I know what I'm talking about.
Well,
You know what I
authenticity
mean?
always wins, because if you're not authentic, eventually, it may not be right away, but eventually it's going to shine through. And then,
Oh yeah.
then you've lost everything. So one of the questions I'd love to ask people, because it's hard for me to answer, but if there was one decision that you've made along this long path that you wish you could reverse the decision, can you narrow down what that might have been for you?
Bringing in a couple of partners in a couple of different business ventures.
For the wrong reasons, or did it just turn out not?
They were the wrong people, and it was a very bad thing. Very bad thing. Caused me a lot of agita, a lot of problems. So so those people, I wish nothing but go away.
Yeah.
But
well, if you're not helping me, you're hurting me, right?
For me, like I've made mistakes along the way here and there, but the trust that I put into a couple of the wrong people along the way, I wish I could take that back, even though I've learned from those mistakes tremendously. And again, like I said, you need that failure to move forward. But, things might have been different, and maybe it's for the better. Maybe it's for the better that things happened the way they did.
What made them the wrong people?
They were trying to take the business from me underneath.
Okay.
When
so they
I was
didn't have you in their best interest. They had
themselves. And here's the thing: is when you're successful, or when people like you, or you're making strides. Sometimes people that you would even think that they would be happy for you, there's jealousy there.
Mm-hmm.
And they feel that, well, why is he or she doing this? I should be doing that. I should have that respect. But they're not putting in the work to get there.
Right.
So some people are very dishonest, and they'll try to come up from underneath you and hurt you. And that's what these people did. One happened in wrestling. One happened in, in my Hound Comics company. Which these people just, they become, it's like a cancer. You know what I mean? And you have to cut that cancer out. Otherwise it spreads, and you got to be very, very careful about it. And the problem is and without giving, too much or whatever, when in the wrestling thing, it was during one of the worst times of my life. I'd opened up my school. I had, it was a partner I brought into the school. I had spent 7 days a week, almost 24 hours a day there, just working, building, doing things. I had, over 50 students at the time. And I was also going through a separation with my ex. And, so it was like a very bad time for me, and I needed to take a step back. And I took that step back, just to get my life together for a hot minute after investing everything I did to build the school.
Right.
That's when the people attacked and did the things to me.
When you're vulnerable.
You know what I mean? Yeah. While I was vulnerable and while I wasn't there to defend myself. So, that being said, it's just cowardly people that, they want that fame, but they're never going to get it. So they think that they can steal it or take it.
Because they don't have the work ethic to put into it.
Right.
It's easier to just take it away from somebody else or something else.
Yeah.
So,
but here's the thing, Craig, the most important part of it is you can try to take my business. You can try to take my personality. You can try to, but you're not me.
Right.
You're not me. You don't have the relationships. You don't have the this. You don't have the know-how. That's what it, you know what I mean? Like, that's what the success is having those relationships and being able to take it and kind of roll with it.
And that's where that authenticity comes in, because like you said, people can have, if you own a shoe business, there's going to be other shoe businesses, but they're not going to be your shoe business because of you and your active part in it and your influence in it. And you're a hell of a personality. So I don't think that anybody can just be you. One of the things that just popped up in my head, man, because we keep talking about all of the things that you do, right?
Yeah.
How the hell do you have time? Like I am strapped for time, and I'm a health insurance agent by day. I do the
Okay.
podcast, and I have a little bit of a coffee company going on, and I'm
Oh,
and
I have
I'm
my coffee line too. We have
I
so much in common.
I know, man. This is killing me. We're gonna have to have a couple other conversations. We don't even have to record them. But I'm dying here now. Again, I'm in the beginning stages. I don't have the 41 years worth of all this other stuff that or experience. I'm trying to pick it all up on my own. But how do you balance your time and still be so active and so personal in each one of those businesses?
Time management is a huge thing. Time management is really, really huge. My schedule looks ridiculous, very color coordinated. What do you call it? My wife pretty much oversees, a lot of my schedule for home. So she makes sure to insert the important things that I need to, kind of carve out time for, at home
Hmm.
within that schedule, and then, pop it into my schedule, my business schedule, where, I have to work around a lot of things. Like that's why I'm doing a lot of interviews now, because right now I'm not touring. So it's easier for me to kind of, put myself out there and just kind of get an opportunity to meet a lot of different new people. And that's the thing for me is like, I don't do the interviews expecting to get a tremendous amount of people to come follow me from it. I do them because I want to meet the different hosts. I want to, get to know the people, who I'm talking to. And if I can get one person, whether that's yourself or a fan of yours, decides to follow me, then I've done my job. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like,
yeah.
but for me, it's just, going out there, keeping up my chops, you know what I mean? And uh, that's it. It's, you know what I mean? So my schedule, I'm very like today I have four interviews. Yours was one of them. So, like I have everything kind of plugged in and staggered. That's why the other day I was just kind of like,
I hear
like,
you.
oh no.
Yeah,
Which, things happen, but, you can understand now when so I
absolutely.
have things staggered, and then in between, I'll throw in any kind of phone calls that I need to make. I'll throw in any kind of internet stuff I need to do. And then, social media I do throughout the day. And then sometimes I do it until wee hours of the morning. I'll be up until 3 in the morning, and then I'm up at 7 o'clock, you know what I mean? In the morning, because the dog is barking and
Right.
my wife is like, time to get up, but,
Why pay for car insurance every month if you're a safe driver and have never been in a car accident? Because insurance is not for when things are going good. Insurance is for when things go wrong. And you need to have it there at all times so that when that time comes, you have the coverage you need. Health insurance is no different. When you are healthy, it may seem unnecessary to pay for health insurance, but everybody is healthy until they're not. What happens when something goes wrong? An accident around the house, a necessary surgery, or perhaps a virus that has taken the planet by storm? What then? You need to make sure you have a plan in place to protect yourself, your family, and your financial security. Health insurance is there to make sure all the pieces are put back together again. But you can also be rewarded for your good health history and pay much less for better benefits, and we can show you how. Sawyer Health Solutions. Great health coverage when you need it most, but more affordable for when you don't.
Like it's a little bit more difficult when the world is open and I'm touring and I have, places to be and I'm filming, you know what I mean? Like different things. Then the schedule gets a little crazier. But if you want it to be, you'll always find a way.
Yep.
That's it. End of story. If you want it to be, you'll always find a way. And it's very important to believe in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else is gonna.
Yeah, and like you
Gotta
said,
buy
you
into
always
yourself.
find a way, because you know what? If people, and this happens every day, if you get the car breaks, right?
Yep.
You're strapped to pay your rent every month or something, right?
Uh-huh.
But your car breaks, damn, man, that's something else I got to do. But you know what? Somehow you figure it out, right? If you want it bad enough, you will do the extra thing. And I think what sets some people apart from others is some of us do that extra stuff all the time, even before we actually need it. So we were talking about schedules, and I'm looking at my clock, and we're getting close. I only got a couple more questions for you, and I'll let you do the rest of your thing.
I'm good until for another hour. So
Dude,
however long you
I could
need,
talk
you've
to you
got
all
me.
day long, but like you, I've got 3 more of these things today. It's an insane
Yeah.
week. But voice acting, I got to ask this before we get off of here. How did that start? I'm guessing because you do already have the comic book thing, but how did you get into that, and how's that working for you?
So the VO stuff, obviously I like to talk. I talk a lot. I also do a ton of different
Might as
voices
well
all
make
the
money
time.
doing it, right?
Yeah, but it's something that I always, again, something I always wanted to do. And everything, so one thing that, I didn't touch on, but everything throughout my career, everything ties into each other.
Okay.
And it's done very strategically, as to where, and it'll come into the VO, I promise. The the what do you call it? The wrestling. What's the next natural progression from
Acting?
wrestling? Well, acting is one, but I already did the acting. So acting, pro wrestling back into acting, but also in terms of pro wrestling, they're what? Superheroes. They're real life superheroes. They're jumping around, flying around, and hulking in the rings. That being said, that's why the next natural progression was a comic book. The comic book. What's the next natural progression? Children's books. What do you call it? The animation. So obviously I did voice work there. Video games. I did voice work. I have my own video games. I have, the animated stuff and so forth, just the Brimstone stuff. So, that being said, that kind of tied in. Then while I was on the road, I started doing a show called Food Hound Tidbits because I was sick of being inside inside a hotel and in a trains, planes, and automobiles and in convention centers and, arenas and just sitting and not seeing where I was going.
Right.
So I said to my director of operations, I go, at the time, I go, Eitan, I need to do something outside of this. He's like, what the hell else do you want to do? I said, I don't know. We got to do something different. I want to see the cities I'm in. He goes, well, what is that? What do you want to do? I said, well, I like to talk. Well, we know that, Brim. I said, well, and I like to eat. I'm good at it. He's like, we know that, Brim. So I'm like, let's do a foodie show. So it was before YouTube had all the food stuff and social media was like overloaded with foodie stuff. We did a show, Food Hound Tidbits. So, doing Food Hound Tidbits, that is what led into the next natural progression of sauces, seasonings, my coffee line, my candies, and so forth. Now, for those who don't know, in the comic book, all right, there is a place where all the main characters hang out. It's a bar in hell called Heaven. Now, Heaven, complete with stairway, get it? Stairway to heaven.
I gotcha.
So inside Heaven, all of the different things in there, they have like the grub munchies and the other different little things like the candies. Those are all in the actual comic book. You can get sweet heat treat wings, blah blah blah, and they're talking about the food. They're talking about the grindhouse burgers with the grindhouse seasoning. Okay, now see what you got. You've got all my sauces and seasonings and my candy are all in the comic book. They cross over. So if you don't know that, it's from a comic, it's from a comic. And if you do know it's from a comic, now you can make this stuff in real life. Now, if you heard what I said the grindhouse burger, well, the grindhouse radio. You see what I'm saying? So it all kind of works together. So my next natural progression from everything else I was doing, I wanted to do radio, because I like to talk. So, and I know a lot of people and I figure, it could be a good thing. So grindhouse radio, happened. And what's the next natural progression from radio and podcasting and so forth? Voice acting. So because you're now you're able to, and I played so many different characters over the years. You know what I mean? I'm at this point, the voice acting, I'm able to really put a lot of effort into because I have my own fully functional studio. I have my engineers, which that's the one thing I don't know how to do is actually do the engineering, which I really want to learn, but I gotta let them do it because I got too much on my plate. But what do you call it? Just to give you an example, like I'll do reads, all throughout the week. I've been very, very successful with it. I've had a lot of different video games and animated series that I'm working on. I have a lot that are coming up that, I can't talk about yet, but, just a lot of really cool stuff. And I get to fulfill a lot of the things that I wanted to do. Like I just did Wyatt Earp. I played, Wyatt Earp in Finger Gun for the Oculus, Quest. So it's the video game. You actually use your hands as guns, cause it's the VR virtual reality.
Yeah.
So I'm doing, Wyatt Earp and, it's like I get to do I always wanted to do an Old West. You know what I mean? I always wanted to do a Western. and I'm still waiting for a movie that I'm supposed to be in, which is a Western. So we'll see what happens.
Uh-oh.
But what do you call it? I was able to do that. And, I'm playing, Terror T and Serial Killers, which is a old school fighter video game, as well as a, what do you call it? As well as an animated series, which is going to be a lot of fun. And then the list goes on. I did Viking Vengeance. What do you call it? I play one of the lead roles in that, which I kind of am navigating you through the entire game. That just launched on Steam. So, it's a lot of fun to be able to sit there and just dive into these characters. And I've been blessed enough for them to kind of allow me to do what I want to do with it. I did a thing, Donut Baby, with my buddy Greg Sipes. Greg's from Teen Titans Go. He does Beast Boy, and so he's like, hey, here, you know what I mean? Let's do something. And I'm playing Commander Frosting in that, which is a lot of fun. This Donut Baby, I channeled my Gilbert Gottfried for that voice.
Oh Lord,
and,
I don't miss that voice. I don't miss that voice.
It's a lot of fun though. It's a lot of fun to do, just getting involved, and that's but there's just a bunch of different voices that I just really enjoy doing. And
how do you come up with them? Because for me, coming up with a different voice, it's hard for me. I haven't trained myself. I haven't really done the voice acting part of it. I played around with some voice over stuff, or commercial narration, or maybe audio books or something like that.
Good start.
I play around with that, but that's just my own natural voice, and different, like mellow or excited or whatever. But for voice acting, that's completely different, because you are a character and you have to be a character with only your voice.
Yeah.
So what I did, I would just go online and just find some Google images or something like that, some cartoon characters that I've never seen or heard before, so I don't know what they normally sound like, and I'd print it off, stick it in front of me, and then I could try to act out what I think they would sound like. Did you do anything similar to that, or how did you get into those characters for it?
Again, for a lot of the characters that I've done the roles for, like Game Day and Weaklings, I kind of just, I kind of took a little bit, like I like to base it off what the character looks like, and then I gotta hope that the company I'm dealing with, or the people I'm dealing with, or the director is gonna like, what I'm doing.
Your interpretation of it, right?
You know what I mean? They're gonna like my interpretation, and like. A Game Day is, oh yeah, he gets a little bit like, excited when he talks. He talks very excited, and he, and he's like, he's a sports guy, you know what I mean? Ooh, let me give you a hot hike. It's like, so it's like a little bit of a gritty voice, but like a little bit quicker when he talks, and, very excited. And, I love doing Game Day when I have the opportunity, to do him, because I could just kind of like let go. And, it was funny because they wound up doing, in one of the episodes, of Weaklings, they did, it was a Halloween episode. And so they put him in the ring. They had me say a bunch of wrestling moves, but then when they did the wrestling moves, it was not the moves that I was saying. So I was like, ooh, it's the jackhammer. Ooh, and then I'm going to hit the bus with it. Cause it was like him supposedly wrestling a bus, and, it's like,
but is that something you would know, but nobody else would know though? Because I mean,
no, no, a clothesline.
It was very
everybody knows what a
clothesline.
Ooh, I'm going to give him, and so for him, I chose to give him a mix between Kari Payton. His voice is a mix between Kari Payton, Cyborg from Teen Titans, and what do you call it? And Randy Macho Man Savage. That's that's my Game Day.
That's a hell of a little baby right there.
Then you got like Terror T. For Serial Killers is like for those of you who don't know what Serial Killers is, it's the video game is like old school Street Fighter style, but it's all the different serial mascots, like, but in this, like, that they're fighters. So Terror T, I play the lead role, which is Tony the Tiger, essentially, from Kellogg's. You know what I mean? So when I'm doing the Terror T voices, he's got a snarl, you know what I mean? And you're just trying to get that really guttural, like, you know what I mean? The snarl in there, and and when he's talking, he's the monks, you know what I mean? It's, a little bit of anticipation, and and that's that character, Wotan from Viking Vengeance. He's a little more, he's laid back, and he's telling the tale. You know what I mean? So there's just like, and I tune my voice down for that one, so each one is just slightly, like it's just, it takes on its own personality as
I
it
was going to say,
goes.
like, you have to give each voice a personality and just keep that personality flowing.
Yeah.
That's
And
cool.
I'm still new with it. Like with a lot of it, even though I've done a lot with it already. I'm still a baby in it. You know what I mean? I've been praised for a lot of it, thankfully. I also have the luxury of having some of the best voice actors in the industry as some of my good friends. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? You've got Charles Martinet, who does the voice of Mario and Luigi for Nintendo, is one of my dearest friends. He wrote the forward for my book. You know what I mean? You're talking about oh my God, the list goes on. Veronica Taylor, Ash Ketchum from Pokemon, Erica Schroeder from Pokemon, and a million other things. What do
We
you
learn
call
from
it?
experience. I mean,
Yeah,
people who are
Sean
experienced can give you the
Schemmel,
best
Goku.
tips.
Craziness. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And these people, Greg Sipes, and you know, any one of them I could call up and say, hey, can you listen to this and let me know what you think? Phil Lamar, like, hey, tell me what you think. It just, I want to know what your thoughts are. Rip it apart. You know what I mean? Rip it apart.
Yeah.
And it's funny because Schemmel says to me a while ago when I sent him a reel, like one of my first reels. He's like, listen, I'm not going to tell you you're not good because you're very good. You're very good. You'll definitely get hired, but you need to be better. You need to be better beyond what good is. You need to be even better than that because you need to be exceptional. And then I'm like, I love you,
But
Sean.
that's good, right? I mean, it pushes you to be your best
Yeah,
self, because
yeah,
and I can only imagine, and before we wrap this up, but I can only imagine that there's probably a lot of yes people around you, right? Everybody
oh yeah,
wants to, keep you happy and all that stuff. And then that's the one thing I can't stand, man. Like if you're not here to help me or at least not hurt me, but by not being honest, man, I want to get better. I always want to
right,
get better at whatever it is that I do. And I want to
right.
ask the people who care about me, first of all, and care about my career and my future and what I want to do with my life. But I just want to get better at it, and you can't get better at it. People are like, oh yeah, everything you do is great. No matter what you do,
Hmm.
every time you open your mouth, it's like heaven. Just open the doors. I don't need
Brother,
that.
that's why we have shows like American Idol and what do you call it, and America's Got Talent,
Yeah,
and you have these people that mommy and daddy or this one or that one says how great they are, and then they go up
and then
and
you
they
get
look like
Simon,
yes, and then
right?
you get torn apart. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, be honest.
That's what we have
Help people.
wives for. Wives will always they'll always bring you down a couple of notches, won't they?
Oh yeah, and kids, what do you call it? It's my kids don't give a damn about
No,
what I do. They'll
you're
they'll
just
they'll
dad.
utilize it for what for when it suits them. What do you call it? But my kids are also fantastic, and they've always said and it's funny because like I'm friends with a lot of Walking Dead people, and and Walking Dead when it was really big, and my son was really into it, and and so I think people were talking about it, whatever, and I forgot how it happened. Oh yeah, it was on like Instagram or something, and so he had I guess people were talking about something that was going on Walking Dead, and I was like, why don't you post your pictures with Rooker and with this one and that one? I'm like, post them. I said, you'll get mileage out of that. And he goes, you know what, Dad? He goes, I got to tell you, he goes, I want people to like me for me, not for you.
Right.
And I was like, I taught you well, kid. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I taught you well. And so my daughter, my older daughter, doesn't tell people who I am or what I do. She was dating the boyfriend she's with for a couple of months before she even mentioned well, by the way, my dad is, this person. And, and he happened to know who I was and was a fan. So he's like, what? How come you didn't tell me that? And she's like, for that exact reason,
Exactly. I
you
want you to
know?
like me for me, not
Yeah,
for who my dad is. Yeah.
exactly. And my little one, she likes it. She likes it. When I don't have to, it's not like, well, dad's doing this, that, and the next thing. So it's embarrassing me because she's at that age. Everything's embarrassing to a 10-year-old. It's like, dad, you're embarrassing me. And, but then again, when I have friends of mine, she needs something, like she's doing the remote learning right now during COVID.
Mhm.
And, they're like the redheaded stepchildren of the school districts. So I want to make, their last year, cause she's going into middle school, want to make it special. So, I had friends of mine like Erica Schroeder and Veronica Taylor do drop-ins, virtually in their classrooms. I worked it out with the teacher, and they were like, yeah, what do you call it? My friends were like, yeah, I got you. So they wound up going and doing, the drop-ins, and they're all like, Haley, how are you? We miss you. It's so great to see
That's
you.
so
And
cool.
she's like, like, yeah, I'm Queen, Queen
I'm a
Bee
little
here.
something.
And
Yeah.
then, but then, and I'm standing sometimes like when they're on, because I want to make sure everything goes smoothly, and I'm there and I hear them, and it's like, make sure you tell Dad I said hi, tell him I love him, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, I will, it's like, hey, come on, man. Like, at least give me a little bit of credit.
Right.
It was like, I didn't have to do that for you. But at the end of the day, they get to meet people and do things that other people don't get to do.
Yeah.
And, and that's what I work hard for. So that, not that, we're no better than anybody else, but you know what I mean? We get some certain privileges that come with everything I do that, it makes me proud to be able to say, hey, do you want to go do this? Do you want to go backstage? Do you want to, you know what I mean? Do you want to,
Exactly. Yeah.
Black Eyed Peas are coming in, I'll call Taboo. We'll go see, whatever. But like, what do you want to do? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not trying to name drop. I'm just trying to give you an example.
Sure.
It's just like, well, what can we do that's going to make my family happy? You know what I mean? Because, everybody seems to, what do you call it? To think, like, just because you're in the public eye, you're making tons of money and this, that, and the next thing. Yeah, we've got money. We're successful. We're not like, throwing money out the window. You know what I mean? Like I have 3 kids. I have a house. I have this. I have that. I have bills. I run a couple of businesses. You know what I mean? COVID hit me just like everybody else. You know what I mean? But, at the end of the day, for me, being able to do things for my children who appreciate it. That's the thing.
Right.
It's not like they're not spoiled. My son works his ass off. My older daughter is a teacher. She works her ass off. They all work they know the importance of making their own money and so forth. And, the fact of the matter is we raise them well, and, they appreciate the extra, you know
Right.
what I'm saying? Because they know how hard it was to get to that point. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, and you did work hard. You worked hard all the way through since you
Oh
were
yeah.
5. So there's got to be some payoff for that, right? And then that's
Okay.
doing those extra things like that. Brim, man, I gotta cut this thing. I could talk to you all day. Like literally,
We
I'd be
will
like, man, I gotta
another
take a
time. We
bathroom
will.
break and I'll come right back. You know what I mean? But I always end these things the same way. I want you to, tell everybody where they can find you and see this array of stuff, like really cool stuff that you do, whether it be in the food business, the TV business, the wrestling business, the voiceover work, the gaming stuff, everything. Where can they find you at?
If you want to see a little bit about me, you want to read about me, there's not everything, but a good fat percentage of things about me on therealbrimstone.com. It's my official website. If you are on social media and you'd like to follow me on any of the social media outlets, everything's up on my official website, the top left corner. You'll see them all up there. I'm very heavy on Instagram. That's where I spend most of my time at The Real Brimstone. It's verified. It's me. The only thing I'm not verified on currently is Twitter. Everywhere else is verified. So, what do you call it? So if you're going to my Twitter, it's at entrance to hell right now. You can get it from right on my website and so forth. But I'm the only one that does my social media. So what do you call it? I don't have my assistant doing it. I don't have my wife doing it. I don't have, Tiffany down the road doing it. I'm doing it personally. So when you write to me, I am the one that's responding to you. Please engage with me on the posts. I love to hear from people. I will always write back to you. I will have conversations with you. And again, as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, I don't want it to be taken lightly. If anybody out there has suicidal tendencies, mental health issues, and you need help, contact me if you need help. Send me a DM. I'll see what I can do about setting you up with the right people. Again, please, please, please be conscious that people love you and you're not alone. So, and if you do have, Craig, I don't know if you have the opportunity, if this is going to be video or not,
Yes.
but if you can put the suicide prevention number up there, I'd appreciate it. This way people know that they have a phone number. And, again, one thing, if I'm going to leave you with anything, is believe in yourself. You know what I mean? No matter what anybody else says, if you want to do something, you want to accomplish something, believe in yourself, because if you don't believe in you, nobody else is going to believe in you. And also, again, as always, try to give back to the community. If you can, even if it's an hour a month, an hour a year, you know what I mean? Or an hour a day. Find something that you're passionate about and give back, because Lord knows we need more good people that are helping others in this time of where our world is kind of in a wacky place. So I know we got to get off, but I just want to make sure that people understand. I would love for more people to get involved in more charity work, but find something that's passionate.
I appreciate that too, because, and especially, as we mentioned at the beginning, the suicide hotline stuff, I will definitely put that on here.
Thank you.
I'm a veteran of the Marine Corps, so I like to do the, the same thing for, it's my pleasure. The same thing for veterans, because, that's certainly something that's a problem too. So I'll definitely put all those things out there. And I second everything you just said. So thank you for that. And your influence is, helpful in that as well. So, man, one of the best conversations I've had in a very, very long time. You're just like a tremendously interesting person. Like, there's just so many different things we could talk about. So I hope this isn't our last conversation.
Oh, no.
I hope we have more on the air as well as off, and we can talk about that later too. But thanks so much for taking the time out of your day today to talk to me, man. I appreciate that. And I hope our listeners get as much out of it as I did.
Honor and a privilege, brother. Thanks so much for having me on.
Thank you for joining us this week. Go to our website at thebizreveal.com to catch all of our past episodes. We're available on all podcast apps, or you can watch any of our episodes on the Biz Reveal YouTube channel. I'm Craig Sawyer, and this is the Biz Reveal. Till next time.